I think collectively, I think we need to listen to Taylor Swift a little bit more. Um, and I think collectively, a lot of people are taking a pause and reflecting on what they represent and thinking about, that often we talk across each other. We don't have like conversations. And I don't think we ever had that. I don't think it's like all of a sudden, you know, there's these sort of sets of studies that sort of show research studies that show that innovation is dying. Um, that show that that we're becoming more polarized. No, I don't think that's actually the case. I think that we've been like this for eternity. And what's happening is that we're exposing a lot more of how we often feel, and that's becoming more evident. The analog world is becoming more digital, and we have more information on it. And I think it's, upsetting to a lot of us when we see this that, yeah, don't necessarily agree with a lot of what's actually going on, both in culture. I think it's easy to sort of see that in culture, and there is a lot of angst, um, and lots of rhetoric and a lot of angst on, it doesn't matter what political spectrum you take. It's just like really, really uptight at this moment. Um, and then even in the scientific community, if you start looking, you start seeing like, my God, like everybody, it's falling apart. And you fixate on it. You know, if you look at what I like to look at is the sort of sociology of science, right? Like how it's actually done. And you'll look at it and you'll be like, oh my gosh, this is garbage, right? Like, what are we actually looking at here? Um, Not that the science on that is garbage. It's like the whole scientific effort is garbage. It's like, oh my gosh, we got these crazy incentives that make people do things. Everybody talks across from each other. There's a lot of animosity, like just it's tough, right? But I don't think any of this is new. And it hasn't been around. In fact, I want you to and I'm not saying that it's not possible to go back to real crappy times, but I want you to look at the history of things and go back 100 years and you start seeing like, oh my gosh, there was lots of poverty. The world was just horrible, right? Like it was a bad situation. And then today we're talking about this sort of minutia. Like, I know that there's bad things that happen around the world, but now we're starting to see like, okay, um, there's this sort of small, really negative thing that happened, but it only happened to half a dozen people in some foreign country, and now we hear about it. Whereas that wouldn't have happened before, right? Like large swaths of people died at various parts of 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 history, like huge amounts. And there was, starvation, just mass amounts of poverty. There was, oppression like you never imagined compared to today. And I'm not saying like we can't go back to those moments. It's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, and I'm not saying we shouldn't fight against those, is that we should be fortunate. Think about how fortunate we actually are. And I would say, I'd be confident to say that in almost every country around the world, except for ones that are going through war, right? There's a couple of countries that are going through war, and it's sad to see. Um, but despite the rhetoric, the angst that is generated, I mean, I think we do need to listen to Taylor Swift a lot more in the song about you're being too loud. You just gotta calm down, right? I think that's it. Is we just need to take a step back and realize, like, hey, we can actually have a conversation here. Yes, I realize that there's some people that don't want to have conversations, but I think we need to go back to just being more empathetic. Um, Even when they don't want to have more conversations, try to figure out why. What is actually going on there? There perhaps is actual reasons why people feel upset about things and that they need to be somewhat addressed, right? Like, I think that there actually are legitimate understanding that we can get to. And I think the only way that we can bridge understanding, even with people that you find are just deplorable, like really, really nasty stuff that you can't understand. And it makes me gross too. It makes me feel yucky inside. When I see those things, it's try to come to an understanding. And I'm not saying to lose yourself and lose that moral understanding that that there are rights and wrongs in this world. There is things that legitimately can be considered evil, um, but come to the understanding that we need to have a little bit more empathy. I think about this. One of the things I can't understand that I really struggle with, and I'm going to be open here. It makes me nervous. I don't like openly talking this. It makes me absolutely. I I cannot fathom how the Holocaust happened. I can't. I I I still am very deeply I struggle with it. I don't understand the people that committed it. Um, and it makes me just I get angry, honestly. But what gives me hope is that I know that there's lots of people that went through it and they've forgiven other people. They've literally forgave other people that committed some of those things so that they can move on. I think about that. I think about the countries where that happened and people got back to where they were and they rebuilt where they were and they respect things a lot more. It gives me a lot of hope. I think we just need to calm down, as Taylor Swift says. She's right. Get back up, get going, start being more empathetic to yourself and to other people. Take care and have a wonderful day.